Ciao a tutti, oggi in DJ Special ho il piacere di essere qui con il grande Peter Gabriel.
Ciao.
So Peter, why did it take you so long to get this album out?
Well, I don't usually work very quickly, and I was doing a little bit of touring. In fact, quite a lot of touring. Then I mixed a live album, did some more touring, did some traveling, got to Brazil a couple of times and to Africa, and then was asked to do a soundtrack for the film Birdie.
Yeah.
So after that, we didn't start this record till February last year, and then it took about 12 months.
Ooh. You find that you spend a lot of time in the studio changing things around from how they were originally written?
I do, yeah. I tend sometimes, like there were two songs, In Your Eyes and Mercy Street, which were pretty well rewritten. But I think I like very much to play with sound and atmosphere, and I think it does take time to get that to work well.
Yeah. How'd you find working with Daniel Lanois? And what happened to Brian Eno?
Right. Well, I think Daniel's very good. I mean, it was by chance really that he ended up on this album. For the Birdie soundtrack, I wanted really an engineer who was very familiar with atmosphere work.
Yeah.
And he was recommended to me for that. And he became very involved, and so he ended up as co-producer on that. And because we had already set up a relationship and got some sympathy, then I asked him to carry on with the next project.
Right.
And I think he has produced some Canadian bands on his own, but I think it's the first sort of main European project that he's taken on his own. But I think he did a very good job both in acting as a critic for me for the material and also in getting the performances out.
Yeah. I have to ask you why you named the album So.
So, well, it's a small word and it has a nice shape.
That's a good reason.
Yeah. It could look like a snake in a ring, but that wasn't the thinking at the time.
No, so it's not a symbolic meaning, a snake in a ring.
No, it's very empty.
Okay. The single Sledgehammer, and you said that you wanted to recreate the sound of the 60s. Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, I think I began as a drummer, and not a very good drummer, but for me, soul music was fantastic music and really great stuff from my heart. And as a singer too, the early soul singers from sort of Stax Atlantic heyday were my heroes, so I was trying to recreate some of that feeling. And I think now, because I've been working largely with atmosphere on this film soundtrack, I wanted to return to something a little more solid and soul-based on this record.
Right. Talking about your heroes, you mentioned that you really like Otis Redding, one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
And you use Wayne Jackson, also Richard T. on piano. Why did some of this R&B influence come out before in your music?
Well, it has in little ways, but I think I've been thinking of doing a whole album of sort of R&B and soul material, but
your own music or redoing?
Well, a bit of both, maybe some mine and some other people's, but
that'd be brilliant.
I would enjoy to do that, but it's something I've been talking about and not doing. But this, if you like, with Sledgehammer in particular, was a feeler in that direction to see how it worked.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, the main body of my work will still be creating new material, but a little bit of nostalgia for me is something to enjoy.
If you did this album, do you think you would cover one of Otis Redding's songs, something that most people tend to not want to do?
Well, the problem with covering Otis's songs is that nobody can sing as well as he can.
I know.
So I think it's very good advice to stay clear of it. I mean, I think that's part of the problem. I think that a lot of the soul vocalists are the best vocalists there have been in pop music. So for people like myself, I think we have to try and be more interpreters and arrangers in some ways.
Let's talk about some other tracks. Red Rain is about a recurrent dream. Do you find that you always have dreams, analyze them, and then write about them?
I'd say that's only about 10% of the sort of source material for the lyrics, but I think it makes sense to look at dreams, and everything that we see in the world about us at one point was a dream, whether it was just an idea in a designer's head or a building in an architect's head. Right. And you spend a third of our lives in sleep, and maybe a bit more in daydream. And in many other cultures, the dream is taken a lot more seriously. I would like to see dreams given a little more prominence in our world.
This other track, that voice again, you talk about this internal voice and making a judgment. It seemed from judging from Red Rain and from this track that you kind of either follow a type of religion or astrology or else maybe psychoanalogy. Is that true at all?
Well, I don't know. I think I'm interested in psychology and just trying to learn a little bit of how people behave and why they behave in the way they do. So, in that way, I'm interested.
If you find any answers, let me know.
Okay. Send them on a postcard.
Mercy Street, you mentioned before, is written for Anne Sexton. Excuse my ignorance, but who's Anne Sexton?
Okay, well, I didn't know much about her either, and came across her work in a bookstore in New York. She's a poet. She wrote mainly in the 50s and 60s. She's now dead. But she was a housewife until age 28. And then, suffering from depression, she was in a mental hospital, and her doctor suggested that she start writing, mainly as a means of handling some of her own experiences. And because she wasn't really writing for critics, she wasn't writing for an audience, it was almost like a diary. It was very personal, vivid, and strong.
Yeah.
So these images began filtering in and haunting me for a while, and the lyric is what came out the other end.
Okay. In Your Eyes, which I think after Sledgehammer is probably my favorite track in the album, you have a couple of brilliant guest vocals on that track.
Yeah.
Tell me about that one.
Okay, well, there's some amazing singing from a guy called Youssou N'Dour, who's an African singer from Senegal that I met in Paris and then Dakar and then in London. And I think he will be very big. I think he's, well, already in West Africa. He's like a sort of young Bob Marley figure. And there's a mixture of sort of Arabic and more traditional Senegalese sort of Wolof traditions in his style. And I find it very moving. And I also had some support from Michael Bean of the Call and the Jimmy Kerr chorus. So I think one of the good things about what I'm doing at the moment is that I have the benefits of a long relationship with certain key musicians, and yet I'm also able to bring in many other talents and different people when there's specific musical ideas that I need in music.
Yeah, another one of these key people is Kate Bush, again working with you. Who's her voice supposed to represent on that song, Don't Give Out?
Well, I'd seen a program about the effect of unemployment on relationships, and in this case, the man doesn't like himself. He's lost his employment, and even though he's getting support from home, he cannot really receive it because he doesn't like himself anymore. But the conclusion of the song is a little more optimistic.
Okay. You also have Stewart Copeland.
Yeah.
And the Charleston, as they'd say in Italian, that's what the hi-hat is called in Italian, Charleston.
Ah, right. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Drums, yeah. You think you'll be working with him again in the future?
Well, I worked with him on a track called Across the River, which is on the WOMAD, World of Music, Arts and Dance album. And that, I think, is probably one of my favorite pieces of work with him. What he does for the drums, I think, is really supplies them with a nervous, driving energy that I like a lot. And on Red Rain in particular, his hi-hat work is very strong.
And he spent a lot of time in Africa too, studying rhythms and
That's right.
things.
Similar enthusiasm, although a lot of the drumming on the album was done by a new French player, or new to me, called Manu Katché, who's an extraordinary player.
Okay. Now, a lot of the songs in this album talk about social or political topics, except for the first single, Sledgehammer, which is kind of a funny song, if I can say so. Why did you pick this song to open up the album as a first single?
Well, I think mainly because it was a little different to what people had expected from me.
Yeah.
And because it had been a while away, I wanted to do a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Do you think it's good that a lot of pop bands are getting involved in social and political problems lately?
Yeah, I think it's excellent. I mean, I don't want it to go so far that every time you switch on the radio or watch television, there's somebody telling you what to do or what to think. But I really feel that we do have a lot of media attention, and so it's really stupid not to